Hello again and welcome to another Mordy and Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode, I will be doing another community spotlight showing off a gaming tool that I think every Warhammer 40k player needs to get their hands on. Let me ask you this question. How many times have you been in a game of Warhammer 40k? Maybe it's even a tournament competitive game, one that you really want to win, and you have in your turn used a stratagem or a psychic power to get off a buff on one of your units. Maybe you've given it -1 to hit or -1 damage, and you go, oh well, I haven't got anything to mark it down, but I'll remember that when it goes into my opponent's turn. But then in all the excitement of playing the game with all the different mechanics going on, perhaps you forget. And you get halfway through your opponent's shooting phase before you realise, damn, he should have been -1 to hit the whole time. I should have taken none of this damage. Oh my god, that has cost me the game. If only I had remembered my psychic power. If only I had remembered my stratagem. Well, thanks to Grotskulls Workshop, that scenario is a thing of the past, because they have some fantastic token sets that make sure that you never lose track of your stratagems, psychic powers, and other game abilities. Grotskulls Workshop is an online store run by an absolutely lovely chap called Adam, and he sells these high quality token sets that allow you to keep track of pretty much everything that's going on in your game of Warhammer 40k. In my opinion, these tokens are absolutely invaluable for all Warhammer 40k players, both experienced ones and new players to the game as well. If you're a new player, sometimes Warhammer 40k can feel a little bit intimidating. There's lots of different mechanics going on, lots of different abilities and data sheets and stratagems and psychic powers, and sometimes it's just really hard to be able to keep track of all that stuff. Well, imagine if you just had a token that you could just plop down next to one of your units and go, yep, that unit is -1 to hit. I know it's -1 to hit because either it's inbuilt on its data sheet, or I remember I've supposed to spend a stratagem on it, or a psychic power, but I know that that's -1 to hit. Now, I don't need to constantly flick through my codex to remember what all my rules are and what all my stratagems are, because I've got them right here and I know what the abilities are. It's a great way of easing that learning curve into the game, and these tokens are very good for newer players. But it's not just newer players that are going to find these Grotskulls Workshop tokens game-changing. These are an incredible tool for tournament players as well. One of the things that people don't often talk about when it comes to tournaments is the mental strain, the mental fatigue, the tiredness that comes with playing so many games of 40k in a concentrated period. Playing 5 or 6 games at a grand tournament, or if you're very good, getting into round 7 or 8 of a super major is incredibly draining on the human brain. And it can be very easy to forget all important stratagems and buffs at the worst possible time. On top of this, by using these tokens in every game, you're going to save yourself a little bit of brain power. You're going to save yourself a little bit of mental load, which means that when you get to the final of the event, your brain's going to be a bit more refreshed. It's going to be a bit less tired, and that might just make the difference between victory and defeat between you and your opponent. I mean, let's say you've been using these tokens and you go into that final game and you're tired, but you're feeling pretty good about it. Your opponent gets into their final game and they've not been using tokens, they're a little bit more worn down than you are, and they might make a simple mistake. Maybe they just leave that 9-inch gap open on their backfield that you can exploit with your deep striking units. You can take an advantage of that opening, and it allows you to win the game. It might sound silly, but just having these tokens, having these gaming aids, having these tools that allow you to take thought out of all the other little bits and just focus on the tactics and the strategy can actually have a huge impact and cumulatively can make a big difference. And if any of you think that I'm over-exaggerating a little bit here or over-egging the pudding, then let me put myself on the line here and say that I recently went to a 6-round GT. Can't tell you the last time I did a 6-round GT, guys. They're always incredibly grueling. I normally prefer to just do 5-round events. But because I knew the event was going to have that extra game in it, and I knew it was going to be just that little bit more tiring, I ended up taking these tokens with me. And I can say categorically, without a shadow of a doubt, that just being able to slap these tokens down, just being able to remember my buffs made a huge difference. And it was actually a small yet significant contributing factor to the fact that I went 5-1 at that tournament. I only lost a single game at the event. I never forgot any of my buffs. I always knew where my psychic powers had gone off. I always knew which objectives I'd raised the banners on, where I had put my important orders with my superior tactical training squad. I knew exactly where everything was every single game, and it meant that I never lost track of anything. And I have to say, on the flip side, my opponents pretty much every single game, without exception, forgot something. Even if it's just a little small buff. Oh, that unit had -1 to hit on it. Oh, I should have had a 5% vulnerable save there. They did forget it. It did have an impact on the game. And in some games, it had a huge impact. So I swear by these tokens. I have seen the effect they've had on the battlefield. I've seen the impact they've had in my games. And so that's why I'm sharing them with you today, because I honestly cannot recommend them enough. Now, I want to say a massive thank you to Grotskulls Workshop and to Adam for sending me these tokens. Now, he sent me a couple of sets here. Firstly, he sent me the set of the objective tokens. These are the ones that you use to show that you've raised a banner or that you have deployed some data or retrieved some data. These ones are honestly my favorite. They're so handy. They're so invaluable. They're such good visual aids. I actually found these not only useful for showing off when I had retrieved some battlefield data, but there's also one of the missions that you do where you place down little bomb tokens and they're worth points at the end of the game. And they're a really easy way of keeping track of where you've dropped your bombs down and how many you've got. So how many bonus points you score at the end of the game really does make a big difference. And without them, you end up putting dice on the board, but then inevitably those dice get knocked or picked up when you forget what they mean. So these tokens alone, I think every single Warhammer 40k player needs at least a set of these. They are really, really helpful. Grotskull also sent me some Imperial Guard faction tokens as well. So you can see here, I've got a token for each one of my tank orders. I've got loads of tokens for my Imperial Guard officer, my regimental orders. And of course, I've got these really cool red and gold ones for my commissar orders. These are my favorite looking tokens. They're so cool with the red and gold. Feels very, very commissar. You've then got some other ones here. So you can see you've got a token for Relentless. So you act as on your top profile. So a couple of different -1 to hit tokens. And of course, -1 damage. Always useful if you pop that ablative plating stratagem. And then of course, you've got some more for your psychic powers here. And the Tech Priest Engines here has one for their 5% vulnerable save that they can give out. So handy. I do really like the small detail here. Just goes to show like the extra effort that Adam and Grotskulls Workshop have put in here. You've got a 5% vulnerable save token to show it's come from your Tech Priest, and then you've got another 5% vulnerable save token to show that it's come from a psychic power, just in case that makes a difference, or just in case you're wondering, have I used my Tech Priest invulnerable save yet? Have I used my psychic power invulnerable save yet? Now you know you can keep track of those little nuances, those little minutiae, which is very helpful. Just goes to show the extra attention to detail that's been put in, to be honest, guys. And then going a step further, you've even got a token for the Scion stratagem in Immovable Indoctrination, where you've got -1 AP and you can't reroll to wound against sounds. Really just so much attention to detail in all of these tokens. Now, these are the Imperial Guard ones, but do not worry, there are different token sets for every single faction in Warhammer 40k, be it Marines or Chaos or Eldar or anything else. Go and check them out. There'll be a link down in the description below to Grotskulls Workshop, and I guarantee you will find a token set that you will find helpful. And the last thing to mention is don't worry about only getting one token of each kind in each set. You get loads and loads of spares in every single set so that you can spread your orders out onto multiple units. You can do your buffs on multiple different data sheets and you can keep track of every single one of them. They're all really, really good. But that's all we've got time for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.